You're listening to the Spandex Power Armour podcast. I've got to believe it's not Bugster.
Hello everybody and welcome back to Spandex Power Armour, and we're finally back.
We're somehow back. How long has it been? 2 weeks?
Well, it took me 2 weeks to get here, so yeah, that will be it.
Yeah, I moved house. Me move house very, very far away. And because we have crap internet, we have to keep doing this in meat space.
Oh boy.
You have to go through the wilderness, fight off a couple bears.
It actually only took me a day to move house. It's just taken me a couple of weeks to actually find it. I've been camping out in bushes and people's doorways all the time.
Cryptic clues. And that's why the podcast has not been going on for a couple of weeks, but we're back, we're dedicated, and we're finally going into our Ex-Aid special. We finished it, and, well, we're going to share our opinions with you.
Whether you like them or not.
But first, we'd like to remind you this podcast is sponsored by TokuToyStore.com. When you want to buy Toku things, including some Western Toku things, they also stock a few Power Rangers toys, but you want your Sentai, you want your Rider, you want your occasional bit of Ultraman stuff, you want Japan, and you want it in you.
Don't be silly, the West can't do tokusatsu, it's only Japanese.
At this point, Haim Saban is just giggling maniacally.
My superior Japanese tokusatsu filmed over 50 million times.
He sort of like peels off a mask to reveal he's actually Japanese. He just had to pretend to be Western in order to survive in the outside world.
So, yep, as we said, we're doing an Ex-Aid review. It's a little late, but who cares? It's Ex-Aid.
It's about as much of a review as it is just going through it, chatting,
having
a good time. It's like a review, but we don't have to bother about actually reviewing it.
Well, it's more like an informal kind of thing, you know?
Just two men talking rubbish about stuff.
Like half in the back without the effort.
So, most of the Kamen Rider community are familiar with Ex-Aid because, hey, it was a big old flashy thing. Came after Ghost, yeah. It was new, it was pastel-coloured, you had people wearing neon belts.
Are you sure that's new? That sounds kind of old to me.
Well, Japan's still in the 90s. They've only just moved out of the 80s. And so they've got the whole radical thing where they've got bright green and pink going on. There was no skateboard gash yet, though. You
know what? That's surprisingly... that was surprisingly conservative of them. I'm surprised they didn't go full 90s. They did have a BMX, though.
They had the BMX bandit. We are fine. And so anyway, we'll begin with talking about the plot of Kamen Rider Ex-Aid.
Spoilers ahead.
Yeah, there are massive spoilers. So if you haven't finished the series, go ahead and watch it, or listen to us and then complain in the comments about how we ruined it for you.
Spoiler alert, Kiria dies.
So does Dumbledore.
Oh, what?
Yeah, I've ruined Harry Potter for you.
The next thing you know, it says he's gay. So, the plot for Ex-Aid is...
What is the plot exactly?
Well, I mean, to begin with, it's just kind of a basic standard Kamen Rider fare.
Hey.
Where it's monsters are things, riders can transform to fight the monsters, and also the riders are semi-related to the monsters.
Yes.
But we've also got like a medical thing, like the monsters will cultivate and develop inside a person, and then you have to use a suit of power armor to punch the monster until they're no longer making the person sick.
Yes, so basically there is a virus called game disease.
Yeah, game of disease.
I'm going to keep calling it game virus, or should we just call it Ex-Aids?
Ex-Aids, yes.
Yeah, so Ex-Aids is going around as a disease, and this elite team of medical professionals is called upon with additional funding from a game company.
When you say elite...
Well, not really elite, but...
One of them is an intern, the other one is working without a license.
Yeah, well, Dr. Nick. Hi, everybody.
Hi, Dr. Nick.
So, yeah, they're funded by a games company, which are like, hey, we're definitely not the ones behind the Bugsters, guys. We're not the baddies.
We're totally on the level.
And the CEO is just like, here, have all these. Test these out for me.
Yeah, it's like a joint venture between, is it Gem, or Genmu?
I call it Genmu.
Yeah, Gen. I'm going to say Genmu.
Genmu.
Yeah, it's a joint venture between them and the Ministry of Health. They're kind of together set up. I think like the Ministry of Health set up a hospital, and then Gen provide like gas shots.
Essentially, yes. And so whenever a person is infected with the disease, the riders must first transform into their Gremlin Diva form, which is a horrible-looking, strange, chibi thing.
It's awful. It reminds me of those...
Robotech.
Yeah.
And so they do that and fight horrible CGI monsters, and they actually gave up on that midway through the series.
Yeah, for the longest time we do not see level 1 forms.
Then they transform into level 2, and everything's okay because then it's an actual fight between people in suits. And the battles
Well, I mean-
themselves are fairly okay-ish, and every victim always has the same Kamen Rider Victim of the Week subplot. Like, they don't love their parents, or they're going through stress. Oh, that's what triggers it. Stress. You know what makes you stressed? Illnesses. And you need video games to de-stress.
You know, the Bugsters would have won instantly if they just targeted university students.
Yeah, they're massively stressed. Finals week, everyone's dead. Actually, they don't die, do they? No, it's like Wizard, isn't it?
They're erased.
They infect a person, then they feed off their life force, and then they become a complete being and can adopt a human form once their host is dead.
They're never actually very clear on that, are they?
No.
It's kind of implied that they're a complete being once they have a human form, but then Parad's host, which is Emu, sorry.
Emu.
Emu.
You're just calling him Emu out of
It's
spite.
it's spelled Emu.
Yeah, but it's pronounced Emu.
Get out of here.
I
It's
mean,
Emu.
yeah, that's fine. I'll pronounce every Japanese word
Exactly
in the
how
English
it's
thing.
spelled.
Oh, you know what I like? I like Kamen Rider. He's a guy who rides small crocodiles.
Because Parad's host, Emu, he's still alive and still going on.
But we'll get into the characters later on as we're chatting about the plot. And so for the first 10 odd episodes, it's just the usual fare of Monster of the Week, done, new monster.
Then eventually, well, they've got like 4 or 5 monsters and they just keep recycling
Yeah.
them.
Then they were like, hang on, they brought back another Monster of the Week.
Yeah.
All the while, Kamen Rider again. Oh yeah, Kuroto Dan, that's his name.
Yes.
Dangerous Dan,
Dangerous
the game
Dan.
developing man.
This dangerous plan.
Yes. The CEO, he's always just like, I'm going to do evil things. I'm secretly the one in charge. I'm actually the bad rider you've been facing. Ha 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 ha. It's very, very
Being called
contrived.
Kamen Rider Genmu wouldn't ever, hint at that.
No, it has no ties to the evil corporation at all. Ooh. So after a few episodes of just generally going about the motions, so monster defeated, colourful lights, hey look, a new gash out you can slot into your belt, kids, buy the toys. Then they finally started explaining, so why is the protagonist some medical intern who's good at video games apparently? And why the hell does he become a bit of a plucky bugger when he transforms?
Yeah.
Then they started looking into it, and so everyone's favourite Hawaiian shirt-wearing coroner looked into it. And
I'm not a coroner.
yes, you are. And it's very, very contrived. So essentially there's some big, shocking secrets as to why Emu can transform. And then we later found out, yeah, he has the game illness.
He has the AIDS.
And given to him by Kuroto, actually.
Whoa, dude.
Yeah. So I love this. Kuroto's background.
Oh.
So, he was a game developer, and Emu loved playing
No,
games.
not just a game developer. He was a teenage prodigy game developer.
Oh, yes. And Emu loved games so much, and he made crayon drawings of game characters and sent them to Kuroto as ideas.
Hang on a tick. Isn't this basically Christian?
Yeah, but successful. And so Kuroto got so angry that his designs were great. He just emailed him a horrible, crippling disease.
I mean, seriously, he just gets an email, like a scrawled letter from like a 10-year-old with crayon drawings. This child is better than me.
Maybe he was raised in a vacuum and doesn't really have an idea of what is the standard.
I don't... Honestly, I don't see how a 10-year-old can make a game pitch that's better than the Teenage Prodigy.
Crayon drawings.
I mean, how much detail? I mean, Kuroto is an actual genius prodigy. So it stands to reason that as a kid, like, he'd still be able to make good stuff. But Emu isn't. He's just a normal guy.
But hey, we'll get more into the two of them later. So that's his background just about sorted. He wasn't given the magic surgery that lets him use the magic Dayglow green belt.
Kiryu kind of cottons on to this and starts digging a little bit deeper, goes to see Dangerous Dad in prison.
So when I watched the series, I watched about half of it, then continued with it a few months later, and a lot of the early plot points are a nightmare to remember, not because it was that span of time, but simply because the show kept hopping between them like mad.
Because they've also got the whole conflict between Snipe and Brave and Brave's dead girlfriend.
Oh yeah, that was a thing.
And then they just drop that.
But we'll talk about that subplot in more detail once we start discussing the characters. And the whole thing with Kiryu is really weird, like he's trying to prove that Genmu is Kuroto. And then there's some really weird ruse with the Bugsters that says, no, you were wrong, Kiryu's a dick.
Yeah, because Kiryu had that little bit where he's lying a lot.
Yeah.
It's been a while since I've seen this episode, I'm not entirely sure.
But yeah, he used to tell lies, and I'm not quite sure, because he never really told major lies.
Yeah, I mean...
He just, yeah.
And then, yeah, they had that whole thing. Then he ends up dead. Spoiler. Whoops. No one knew about
Kiryu
that.
dies.
Funny thing about that, actually, that was in the Christmas episode. Apparently, a bunch of kids got really upset.
Really?
And so, but they also, Toei made a tweet that was a misquote from Grave of the Fireflies. It was something like, why do fireflies always die? But they changed it to something like, why do riders die? Something like that. And that was in really poor taste because Grave of the Fireflies doesn't really go with Kamen Rider. So they had to issue another apology for that tweet.
That's about as relevant as stopping a riot by handing people Pepsi.
But yeah, that was interesting. They really milked that death. Didn't they have like a memorial T-shirt that they sold in the premium Bandai store as well?
Really? I thought that was just a lie. I thought that was just a shitpost.
Might have been, but as far as I know, that's a legit thing you could buy.
My God.
Maybe it's a dirty T-shirt from Build that was that you're thinking of.
The problem is, I find with that plot, it just happened too soon in the series for us to really care about Kiryu dying.
We're still at the beginning of his character development at that point. We're still kind of, this guy's kind of a dick, but like he's okay-ish.
The only person who cared about him was Emu. Everyone else just like, oh, he's here.
Why did he care about him?
Because he was the bike.
Here, take my belt. I'm dying. Love me forever now. And yeah, until he gets revived, he has more screen time in flashbacks to that one death scene of his than he does in any other episode before then.
It's great, but then again, I can explain it. I mean, you can't just ride anyone without developing an emotional attachment. You can't be riders with benefits. To those that don't know, Kiryu literally transforms into a motorcycle in his secondary form.
Yeah.
That's the rider machine.
It's messed up. That he only used like in a couple of episodes.
Yeah, a couple of episodes. It's used less than Kiva.
I mean, even then it's pretty redundant because then you can just use the Gashat normally and just summon like a hollow shell of your friend.
I'm riding my friend's corpse.
It's pretty messed up.
It's a bit messed up. Kind of goth, but hey.
So after he's exposed and after Kiryu's dead, Dan, well, I keep calling him Dan.
Dangerous Dan.
Dangerous Dan. Dangerous Dan and Dangerous Dan's dad.
Dangerous Dad.
So Dangerous Dan and Parad have to go kind of underground a bit, and they hide out in this, whatever it is.
Abandoned room.
With like Rock Band game controller, like a
bunch
drum.
Of synths. I think there was an actual guitar in there as well.
Wherever that is. And they start kind of running their show from there.
Well, yeah, it's like an indie hipster video game startup.
It's Hello Games
now.
That's what's left of Hello Games.
That's all that's left of Hello Games' dark warehouse room. Oh yeah, because that's when Dangerous Dan gets outed as the baddie, and so still stays the CEO, I think, wasn't he?
Well, he only stays CEO because he's dead, and they haven't been able to kind of find a new one yet.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So he also becomes immortal by gathering data from his own death.
Yeah, and he becomes Dangerous Zombie.
This is definitely a Japanese series. It makes zero sense.
But yeah, because Parrot's always like, "Hey, when are you making the Gashat for me? When are you making the thing? When are you making the fun thing, Dan?
When did Parrot actually appear? I think he just appeared at some point.
He's like in the first episode, isn't he? With Graphite.
Was he?
Yeah. Because they were on the building and they were like, we like to kill humans. Yes, we do, friend. Let's go and kill more humans. Yeah, he's like, for the next bunch of episodes, he's nagging, make the thing. And then,
oh yeah, he's like, make the thing.
And then Dan makes him a different thing to tide him over until the other thing's made, which I don't understand why he couldn't just make the thing.
We sound like we're trying to make a spoiler-safe version of the episode. Then the thing happened who killed Thing.
Oh no,
then we
not
found
Thing.
out Thing was actually infected with Thing in the first place.
But yeah, no, Parrot's nagging Kuroto to make Kamen Rider Chronicle and to tide him over to make sure he's not just won't throw a tantrum. He makes what's like the
funky
turny thing? Yeah,
perfect
puzzler knockout fighter.
Yes, just incredibly generic.
That was a really lazy transformation thing because it's just a Gashat. And he transforms it by turning it to the game he wants to do.
And then the body parts just turn around.
Yeah, but then that's the actual thing. There's not like a driver that goes with it.
He just slots it in a belt.
Yeah, a belt is part of his suit. And he just has a little holder on the side there just so he doesn't drop it. That's really lazy.
I really want to bitch about Parrot later. Mostly his terrible costume.
But yeah, so he gets that, and what level's that? 50?
can't remember.
I'm pretty sure that's 50 because then they get more kind of like that and those are 50 as well.
The plot was always a bit of a mess until halfway through the series.
Yeah.
So all throughout that, they were just trying to take down Kuroto. They were like, we've got to plan this, we've got to plan that. He keeps on sending bugsters. He's being really, really strange. He's just getting them all. It's just a mess. And they're like, hey, can we fight him? We've got to slay this immortal zombie. And then, for some reason, Emu gets super Ex-Aids. He just... does he use some gas? No, now I remember. Oh, yeah, when Kuroto's making the extra Gashats, new games, and he gets the Mighty Brothers thing and Maximum Mighty X. They're just so forgettable.
Oh, God.
The origins are terrible.
And the Mighty Brothers X is kind of interesting.
Yeah, but why didn't they shill in the whole he's possessed by Parrot thing when that happened? Because he was just arguing with himself.
Well, they were kind of... That was kind of foreshadowing for it, but you would have thought that episode would have been where they fully started there. It takes them a little while after that to get into the whole...
They fannied around a lot about it.
Oh yeah, a lot of Ex-Aid kind of feels like killing time.
Yeah, it was mostly filler, so when Emu finally uses magical reprogramming abilities to stop Dan from coming back from the dead, things actually get interesting.
Oh yeah, he has that power.
Yeah, and he reveals that he was working on Kamen Rider Chronicle, which is basically Pokemon Go, except you die horribly. So, like people who drive while playing Pokemon Go.
It's basically a LARP that gets way out of hand.
So, after Kuroto's death, and everything seems okay, and the gang are just dealing with the usual bugsters, because, hey, we need to reuse suits, right? Then they find out there's a new CEO, and then the bugsters start taking over everything.
Oh, that guy.
Yeah.
What's he called? Lovelicker.
Lovelicker, yes, and he just starts coming out as some chubby Ponzi dude who loves himself. So, when everyone else is distracted by the bugsters, he nicks Poppy. Oh yeah, there's Poppy. We'll talk about Poppy later. Poppy's cute. Yeah. And so he nicks Poppy, brainwashes her, makes her join with the evil bugsters, and then they complete Kamen Rider Chronicle. And they've got a really weird way of marketing it, because you've got Poppy dancing and being all cutesy in the massive ads. And they just say, yeah, you get to turn into a rider and fight lots of bugsters.
But you don't get a bike.
But you don't get a bike. What exactly are you riding?
The hype.
The company's riding your wallet. Yeah, the hype. So despite Lovelicker becoming the new CEO of Genmu, he wasn't really seen as the big boss. He was just a tool to Parad, who had taken over as the head bugster who could transform into a rider. I love the name of the rider, though, Paradox.
It's pronounced Paradox, it's Para-DX. Kind of like the deluxe things they have with the toys.
It's just how they make it look fancy. It's Paradox.
Paradox.
Yes. We've got a big parrot.
We got a big old parrot dicks.
There we are. There's the tangent alarm. We've made dick jokes, and we've not even been doing this for half an hour.
Oh yeah, by this point, this is where I was starting to realise, hang about, they're just reusing these monster designs.
Yes. So basically, they were having the Bugster Monster of the Week appear in new places, and other people would become minor riders. What was it? Ride players. That's it.
Ride players, yeah. Kind of like the Riot Troopers and the Kuro something Troopers in...
Kurokage Troopers.
Yeah, Kurokage Troopers.
Yeah, essentially they were like mooks, and the best part was it was all part of the Bugster's master plan to kill lots of humans, because every time there was a Bugster, all the other players would just scramble and get their asses kicked.
Yeah.
And then Paradox would appear and then kill them all. And it was great. And the best part is Poppy was brainwashed to become like the announcer.
Oh yeah, what was it? Navigator, the game Navigator.
Yeah, and so whenever one of the riders came up, she's like, "This is a Kamen Rider. Kill him and steal all his loot.
Mug him.
Nick his driver, nick his weapons,
Deck
and you'll
him.
get some really great weapons to fight everyone with." Now the problem with this, overall, I don't think any ride player aside from Nico had been successful in beating a Bugster. None of them had. No one made any progress. They all died in the beginning. And so, okay, this is where I thought we were getting into the main plot.
Right.
The Bugsters were the video game villains, and they were sick of being beaten over and over again in video games. And so in order to get revenge, they create their own live-action game where they kill more and more humans. Now, I thought that was a great plan. That seemed like a great motivation for a villain thing. It's a shame it died like 5 episodes later.
It really doesn't go anywhere, unfortunately. It is a good concept for a series,
And then they still start building up the fact that you've got to defeat all the monsters to get to it.
You got like a different tier, so like at the bottom you got things like salty and that, and then you get a couple of the other ones. Then above that it's graphite paradoxes, 2 forms, and love liquor, and then above that is the final boss.
Cronus. Actually, weren't they trying to aim toward getting the power of Cronus? That's why Nico was doing it. She wanted to get Cronus, that power, then kick all the ass.
Cronus is like a legendary power that you can get to beat the final boss.
As if. It's all that you get from slotting 2 Chronicle Gashats in a gamer driver. Yeah. And you've just got to be living with the disease for years in order to do it.
Yeah.
Thanks, Tiger.
No, it's not that. That helps. What it is you have to be immune to every strain. But the people who have been living with it for years have kind of built up an immunity over time.
So most rock stars from the 1980s then, they've dealt with every strain of every disease. Did they get superpowers now?
Well, I think the ability to survive as long as they have is a superpower in and of itself.
Freddie Mercury tried to become Chronicle, but he wasn't strong enough.
He had the regular aids, not the Ex-Aids.
And all throughout this, the team keep trying to find new ways to beat it. So you've got Tiger and Nico trying to do their thing and get all the Gashats and prizes and stuff. And the rest are like, hey, Emu's got Parad. For some reason, Parad is possessing Emu, and they decide to excise him.
Oh, yeah, it takes them ages, and it's Hero. It's Kamen Rider Brave who works it out because he just realised, I'm going to take. Parad's weirdly obsessed with Emu.
Yeah, you'd think that people with medical degrees would have some ability to see connections and things.
Did Emu never try and scan himself just as a joke with his that stethoscope thing and see, I'm a tick, I've got AIDS?
I like how they kept it a secret from him. Like, even when Hero found out, he was like, he's got the game virus. Oh, wait, no, they did ages ago, didn't they? Then they tried to fight it out of him. The plot is so forgettable.
It really is, unfortunately. Tiger and Hero know about it, and they're like, no, don't tell Emu because he'll die, because he'll be stressed out.
I like how maybe that's an ethical thing. I mean, if Emu weren't able to comprehend a lot about the world, but he is a normal human being who has the capacity to understand stuff, so that's a bit of a breach of medical ethics. That would get you sacked in the NHS.
Well, I mean, it doesn't matter for Tiger. He was sacked anyway.
He's super sacked.
What are you going to do, take my license away again?
And so they eventually find a way to stop Parrot from being so obnoxious somehow, and try and defeat him, how Emu does that reprogram thing on him, but it all goes awry, when in fact he then somehow merges with a bit of human DNA and becomes...
Oh, yeah, he's able to use the gamer driver rather than just the Gashat itself, and he becomes...
it's still Paradox, but it's perfect knockout the game.
Yeah.
It's a bit strange.
It works, I suppose. I kind of like that, where using different trinkets or using different ways to transform it. It kind of like, what was it, Max Dead Heat or something like that. I like it when they mix drivers and
It is a good idea.
Trinkets, you know what I mean?
But the problem in Ex-Aid is, you can get spoilers for the show if you own the belt and everything. It's like, okay, what if I try this in this driver? It's like, it makes different sounds.
Well, yeah, that's what they do. It's as soon as the drivers come out, people take little needles and play with the pins.
They're just like, what?
I don't think the kids will go, look, I wonder what happens if I push these in different orders.
What happens if I stick 2 Chronicle Gashats in here? Oh, wait, I'm Cronus now. Take that, kids on the playground.
I control time.
So what are the...
Was that a JoJo reference?
The end of the show has a few JoJo references, doesn't it?
Yeah, because Cronus keeps saying, Mudada.
Mudada,
Useless. There's like a behind-the-scenes photo of Graphite's actor, Nico's actress, and Poppy's actress doing different JoJo poses together. Yeah. So they were at least aware that there were going to be JoJo comparisons.
And so while the whole Chronicle plot just continues, where Paradox is just killing more and more players and everything, then... I cannot remember his name. He's just Dan. Dangerous Dan's dad.
Masamune.
Muramasa.
Muramasa Dan.
Muramasa Dan, Mr. Flanged Sword. So yes, Masamune, I'll just call him Dangerous Dad for now.
Yeah, Dangerous Dad.
Dangerous Dad comes out of prison, and then it's revealed he was actually the bad guy all along. Oh no.
You mean he's been planning this for 16 years despite the fact that he had no real way to do that?
He was some sort of Machiavellian genius.
You mean the idea that Kuroto had completely independently of his dad was actually his dad's idea all along?
It's a bit
of a
strange thing. It's bizarre. It is so bizarre.
It really doesn't work. Yeah. I mean, Masamune is a fun villain. He's a complete asshat, and it is kind of fun to watch him screw everyone over. But when you put it under any real level of scrutiny, it doesn't work too much. It doesn't hold up, unfortunately.
So Masamune appears, transforms into Cronus, and then says, I have this game now, this game is mine, proceeds to kill Lovelica, beat the crap out of the others, and then just take over as the big boss. Then that just relegates Graphite and Parrot into the sidelines, where they sort of become semi-protagonists part of the way, but we'll talk about that later. And can we just talk about whatever the hell the motivation was for the rest of this? So the grand scheme of Masamune Dan was not for the bad guys to finally win. It was so he could control who lives and who dies. He wanted everyone to buy the game under the assumption that if you can beat the final boss, everyone gets brought back to life. Because when you play the game and you die, you actually die for real. It's like in Canada.
If you die in the game, you die for real. Actually, they don't die in a game. They're playing a game, sure, but they're playing the game in meat space. It's not like they're trapped in the game.
But it's like an augmented reality game.
Is it even? It's more like a LARP, really. I mean, the Pokemon
LARP is a game.
Yeah, that's what I mean. They're playing a game in meat space, so it's more like a game like Tag than anything. I mean, the Pokemon Go comparison is apt, but it's more like a LARP. Like they're not standing there saying lightning bolt, lightning bolt.
You mean people don't LARP Pokemon Go? As in, you're not going to get people dressed like Pokemon trainers going around? You say when they implemented the battle function, people aren't going to shout out the commands they give to the Pokemon as well?
Oh God, that's depressing.
That's the hardcore Go players.
What a bunch of losers.
To be honest, I'd do that. That seems amazing.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Hypnopotamus Loser.
And I'm Kamen Loser.
And we're really, really enjoying that.
It really doesn't have any drive, I guess, to do that. I mean,
yeah.
It's a fine plan. It is a fine villain plan. A little bit generic, but it's fine. I just don't understand why.
There's no end game to it. It's just, I've got everyone dead. Then he's like, I can bring people back from the dead, but I'm not going to. I can control what happens. I think he just wants people dead and he can decide who lives and who dies. It's so basic. I hate it personally. I hate that motive because there is no long-term goal. It's just like, all that power is just a means to an end. Where's the end? I thought it was going to be some sort of long-term, so something that's benign, something that's actually quite well-meaning, like in Kamen Rider Double, where he wants to create some massive connection to the Earth or some bollocks. But with this, it's like he wants all life to be digitized so he can bring it back as a bugster so no one will ever be ill or suffer. That would be amazing. That would have made sense, but no, he's just generic baddie.
I mean, that would be a good idea because no one would ever agree to be digitized normally. So, I mean, the only way to do it would be to have them die and then be digitized that way, you know?
Yeah.
And then have more people be killed trying to rescue them. Yeah, that's actually a much better idea than what they went with. They didn't actually have an idea, did they?
No, and so by this point, they've got a whole lot of protagonist riders.
Oh.
You've got Ex-Aid, Snipe, and you've got Poppy. Poppy's a rider. A Brave jump ship because Kronos just tells him, hey, I can bring back your dead girlfriend. And then Nico's sort of a ride player, but she wears like a cap and a backpack.
Yeah, kind of customized it. And every time she kills, every time she commits murder, she puts a little star on her chest. It's cool.
Yay, smiley face. I took a life today. And, Poppy brings Kuroto back.
Oh, yes.
And he obviously followed the William Shatner school of acting in that he just overacted everything.
I think death really impacted him.
So you then find out his motivation was just to create the best game ever, but then he's mad at his dad because he twisted it and made it like some bad thing. The only reason he's a protagonist is that they let him work on making Gashats and stroke his ego.
They don't even stroke his ego that much.
And he just keeps coming back from the dead because he has some weird continue function.
Yeah, he got like a level 0 Gashat, which is kind of broken and it gives him like a bunch of continues.
Yeah, but he just ends up going all Hypersburg and overacting the whole time. But he is actually a fairly valuable asset.
Oh yeah.
And then Cronus also brings Kyria back from the dead. And so he finally does have a humanoid level 2 form.
It just kind of looks a bit lame.
It looks like they stripped parts from the Giri Giri Chanbara thing.
Oh, it really does.
And just left the front of the face and the chest and stuff.
Yeah.
It's very stripped down, but they brought Kyria back because you didn't want the Japanese kids crying in Christmas in vain, but obviously they would have brought him back, surely.
The bike man's dead, mummy, bring him back.
So at this point, you've got a buttload of protagonists, and it gets a bit confusing, really, because they're still sort of chasing their own ends, but it's more the same end. So you've still got Snipe and Nico doing their thing.
Yeah, they're all ultimately going for the same goal, which is not be killed by video game characters, but they all have their own agendas along the way.
And the one problem is the plot from episode 30 onward is just filler. It's so many episodes of filler to the extent that they're about to take down Kronos and destroy him utterly, and he just does something and it causes it to reset. No, he gets really, really angry, and that affects the Gashat in some way, and he just resets it to a few episodes before, so Kiria still has his driver and stuff. And so then they have to force it to... Whoa, my brain is melting right now.
You really can't make sense of it in one go.
Yeah, so then they added the new save function to the funky Muteki ninja thing. What was it called again?
I think I'd actually just be...
Super Ninja Invincible.
Yeah.
Muteki Gamer something. No, I just call it Ninja. It's a ninja with dreads, gold dreads. That's always debuted as some sort of invincible form, but he hardly used it to be invincible.
It's themed out like a Muso game, like the
What is Muso?
It's kind of like a spectacle fighter thing, like
a spectacle fighter.
You know,
is it where people with glasses beat each other up?
Yeah, you know, Hyrule Warriors. That's the only one that comes to mind.
Oh yeah,
it's that. Basically.
Oh, like Dynasty Warriors.
Yeah, that's it. That's one of them. But yeah, it's basically where you're just like an overpowered asshole, just killing a bunch of guys. So that's what that's based on.
So yeah, the team have to spend lots more episodes developing a way of making him unable to do the horrible restart function. It's filler. All of it is filler. It's the same plot over and over again. And
just wasting time.
Yeah, it's just time for characters to be funny, where Kuroto just goes full Shatner. That's the only appeal. And then Kuroto reveals that the real boss of Chronicle is someone called Game Deus. But then the Bugsters are doing their own thing, so you got Parad and Graphite, one of which has infected himself with Game Deus's virus.
Yeah, to kind of cultivate and bring him into the to the real world.
And he's just slowly dying while Parad is just doing it. Graphite's like, yeah, I'm fine. I'm getting stronger, I swear. I'm just in constant agony.
I'm not ill.
Parad's like, dude, do you want to come help the riders? No, I'm good. I mean, I know that Kiria took the disease out of him when I tried to infect Kronos, but I'll do it again.
It'll work this time, I swear.
It'll work. Let's make another Call of Duty sequel. It was very, very odd. It's a mess. It's a mess, but a fun mess. So in order for the team to properly summon the power of Game Deus, they decide to have Nico kill all of the other Bugsters in order to unlock all the cool tat. And the problem with that is they have to kill some characters. I know they got the Poppy Peepa Popo one at some point when she was unbrainwashed earlier.
Oh, that was just from Lovelica. She's using... She's using the powers from Lovelica's game, despite the fact that she comes from her own game.
Surely there was a Do Re Mi for Beat one.
Yeah, Do Re Mi for Beat is a power-up for Brave.
No, I'm talking about as like the prize during Chronicle.
No, that's not Do Re Mi for Beat, that's Tokimeki Crisis.
So, but surely she herself is a boss in there, and so she would have to... She's the Do Re Mi for Beat one. And
she wasn't a boss in it, though. She was the navigator, and she was like a referee in that. She wasn't actually part of the
What about the episode where they tried to fight her and she was all depressed?
Well, they were just fighting her to try and bring her back.
No, I was talking about with the ride players, how they were attacking her. She had her own prize thing. That was unlocked later on. Lovelica's was Tokimeki Crisis, and it was given to... Yeah, let's ignore this nightmare of a cluster look. And so sometimes they had to get the different prizes from doing other things. So maybe it's kill Parad. So Kronos offered one way of getting Parad's one by just killing Parad, and he'll give it to them so Emu can't transform and do his thing. Yeah. And that's one weird subplot that keeps going on, and it is really weird.
You know, to get rid of that plot point, why doesn't Emu just go into the whole surgery thing? Then he doesn't have to worry about Parad being killed. And
why doesn't he have to ride a surgery?
I mean, seriously, why not?
Yeah, and so they eventually start grinding their way up with things and deal with various conundrums. Is it conundrums or conundra?
For the plural?
Yeah.
I think it's conundrums. I'm going
to say conundra because it makes me sound smart. It sounds like a spell. So going through all these conundra and different character interactions, like, no, you can't kill this person, and when for some reason Parad becomes more of a good guy and Emu sort of tortures him, but we'll go into more detail when we cover the characters. They finally summon Game Deus, who then proceeds to give everyone the game disease.
Yeah.
And then they're like, oh crap, and then Kiria finally snaps about Kuroto being the same annoying person and decides to infect him with it and take advantage of his many lives by repeatedly beating the crap out of him in order for him to gain immunity to the disease. So Kiria manages to do both actual medical research and get sweet, delicious revenge. And Kuroto had stated previously that Game Deus wasn't supposed to give everyone the disease, but he'd been reprogrammed by Cronus to do all that fun stuff. We tend to go between the names, so it is Masamune, Cronus, that sort of thing. But
they're
if you watch the show, you'll understand. If not, we're incredibly sorry, and we'll send our fingers in the mail to you as an apology.
You have to just read the liner notes on our album when you're listening to it. It's like a prog rock album.
Translator's notes. And so, after the final boss they summoned was surprisingly weak, then Cronus decides to merge with him, and then have all the funky powers and become another rider. And then, so I'm just trying to wrap my head around this plot. It is a mess of a plot. Then Nico tries to fight him, and then gets her ass kicked. Then,
because technically she collected all the what are they called, Gasha trophies or something like that.
So she's trophies,
So she's offered the chance to fight Game Deus because well, technically Cronus is now Game Deus.
Yeah, but remember that he expects her to become Cronus in order to fight him, and that really doesn't go well. So Tiger decides that his morality pet really can't do that, and so he decides to become Cronus.
Oh, don't you mean Dortaru?
No, and then that's quite interesting. It's this lovely fight, but it all just ends with the same mess, and I forget what happens then, but then he just keeps on doing his thing again and again, and more game viruses spread, and then we get to the last couple of episodes
where it's all a game virus.
Yeah, so I know we seem very disjointed right now, but it's hard to wrap your head around the plot of Ex-Aid.
Well, the series itself is pretty disjointed.
It's bipolar. It swaps from one to another. Hell, even overall, we're not talking about the sections where they're not riders, because it tries to be a medical drama then.
Yeah, it's like two shows in one.
It's like, on the other hand, I've got to beat this multicoloured monster. On the other, I've got to heal his heart to make him smile again.
No, you fool, you can't get too involved with your patients. That just impacts you emotionally, and you have to be impartial. But I want to protect smiles. I want to heal people and everyone be happy.
Nurse, give me 20 cc's of medicine. No, wait, that's the wrong medicine.
No, we need to give him the right medicine. No, wait, the first medicine was actually the correct medicine.
It isn't the best when it comes to being a medical drama. It's often at times too soppy and heartfelt for a show about neon-coloured superheroes. And so after all that fuss, and then finally, obviously, Poppy sacrifices herself. There's always one character that has to do a really weird sacrifice.
Yeah.
And also, Parad's a good guy because Emu tortured him to death, basically.
But then he stopped the death part and just kind of brought him back. So
sort of recalled
that's
him.
what it feels like.
So we'll talk about that motivation in a sec. And so Poppy then sacrifices herself. Everyone's sad, and it starts raining colourful rainbow particles, like some sort of gay apocalypse. And then everything is fine, everyone's healed, and then they still need to fight Kronos again. Then it comes to the most satisfying part of the show, the final fight.
Yeah, that's pretty fun, even if I hate the gremlin forms.
So yeah, in order to fight the CGI abomination that Kronos and Game Deus have become, they have to resort to the level 1 form with the chibi thing. And Emma was like, I've got to do what Poppy taught me before, because she told him that you have to do that. That's quite a nice touch, really.
Yeah.
It's a good throwback, and the fight scene is satisfying. And then that happens, he's all defeated and stuff. And then it cuts to the last episode, where they then do the fight in their secondary forms. Because
you got a nice little touch. Because remember that bit in the opening where they're in the end, like at night with these
on the road at night, and he's on Kiria.
Turns out that that's actually a thing in the series, and
it's the last scene.
Yeah,
and it is very satisfying. They included that. Oh, and also Parad dies, and Emu was somehow unable to transform, but then somehow he is able to during that scene. Again, this plot is a mess.
Yeah, he dies, but then because he touches him as he dies, he gets ill with him again, and so he doesn't really die.
Yeah.
So there really isn't much of a point to him dying at all.
The final fight itself is very, very satisfying, well choreographed, and you'd need to watch it in order to understand how lovely it is. It's a bit like the game one, and it was good.
There's even a bit where it does look like it's made out of a video game, which isn't a good thing because it's not a video game and the CGI isn't that great.
Japanese CGI never really the best, but keep in mind they did have the best impact effects.
Oh yeah.
And the finishes, it looked sort of semi-rotoscoped. Good stuff. And so after that whole fight happens and Cronus is like, hey, now you've beat me, but everyone who I said I would save but didn't is now going to die, and they're all dead, and you're all murderers. Then he commits seppuku with a gashat, like stabs himself with Chronicle. And so that happens. Then the rest of the episode is dedicated to the whole aftermath thing.
Yeah, I
it's
like
a bit
when they do
cougar.
that.
So then you've got Emu making an announcement, all formal, and saying that no, they're not really dead, but we'll try and invent some medical science to bring them back, and he's going into full serious doctor mode.
He's actually a big boy now.
Yes, and then it's still assumed that the game disease is still a thing, there are still bugsters about, and now the Ministry of Health is working with the reformed Genmu Corporation to make everything right again, and make a medicine that works, and then Tiger's abandoned hospital gets a license, so then he starts doing the same thing.
Just sticks a sheet of printer paper on the sign.
Yeah, don't mind the fact it's a creepy abandoned hospital straight out of Scooby-Doo.
Don't mind the anthrax.
Don't mind Old Man Jenkins wearing a sheet. And so it's the usual happy ending, well, sort of bittersweet, because, hey, Emu's kind of hung up over the fact that his friends have died. Then it's got that really saccharine scene at the end where he walks back into the main base. And then he finds out that Kuroto, being the super developer he is, had somehow managed to bring her back from the dead by infecting himself with her, then doing that. It doesn't make sense. And he also brought Parrot back the same way.
I don't much care for it. I mean, if you had to do it, I'd have preferred if they kept it to one of the movies set afterwards, maybe.
Yeah, at this point, the human brain starts to melt and explode, and that's how it ends. It's like, yeah, there are still bad guys to fight, and Emu's happy that he can then do more of the bad guy fighting with his belt because Parad's alive. And I don't really like the idea that they're sort of bound together because Parad just seems too much of a lesser character. Like, I don't really care about Kamen Rider Paradox.
Parad was okay to begin with until he was forced into prominence.
Yeah.
He was fine as like a second fiddle villain to Dan.
But otherwise, he was a bit meh overall, and this is where we seg into talking about the characters, and there are a lot of them.
Mm-hmm. So, starting off, we've got Emu, Kamen Rider Ex-Aid. He starts off as a pediatrics intern, and later, in a couple of episodes, he's a surgery internship.
And so he's a constant rookie. He's going through the early parts of his training, and he's always the very polite, sort of shy thing that always enjoys doing his medical job, which is a contrast compared to his childhood, back when he had the old game disease, when he was a pro gamer and
the Genius Gamer
Nico's
M.
ass. Yes, Genius Gamer M. Emu, get it? Haha!
It works.
It's wordplay, I guess. And
or
so
letterplay.
There's always that contrast between what he was and what he is, and so it's sort of there to act as a way of justifying his personality shifts, because they're slowly building up, as you've said, to the whole being possessed by Parrot thing.
He's an interesting character. I mean, he starts off kind of like JD from Scrubs, except he doesn't have a black best friend. He's kind of bland until they introduce the whole possessed game virus thing.
He's just there for the ride, unfortunately.
He's okay. He's inoffensive. The other characters where the series shine. It's not. You don't watch it for Emu. You watch it for Tiger or for Dan.
Actually, it's not as bad as Gaim. I didn't hate Emu. Emu is likable. He's there. He just doesn't get up to much.
Like I said, middle of the road. He's kind of moderately inoffensive, you know?
Despite being a neutral and inoffensive character, Emu's backstory is often the motivation for a lot of the early plot, especially when it comes to finding out why he can transform, and later on, with his relation to Parrot. And it's just the whole mess of him being given the disease, but it wasn't out of some act of spite from Kuroto. It was actually to be able to incubate Parrot. Like the operation he had later on was them extracting Parrot, and so
Parrot was just like a side effect of it.
No. He actually came out as part of the operation. The operation was to remove him.
Oh, I know it was part of the operation. I thought Parrot's kind of coming out of it was just like an afterthought. I thought it was mostly just so.
No.
Really?
He came out, but he's still physically there, and they're still tied. So Parrot hadn't really been either defeated or had killed Emu. so that he's still there.
So maybe that's why he's a complete being, but Emu's still alive.
I won't say he's a complete being, because he doesn't have a monster form.
Well, yeah, but I mean,
He has a human form because he isn't part of a game.
well, Poppy doesn't have a monster form either. What Poppy's monster form? How do you
Poppy's
even do...
monster form is Poppy. Her human form is the nurse. Whereas with Parrot, he only has one form. He is human because he's been cultivating in a human. He's not bound to a specific game. He is just there. He was cultivated to become something, but it didn't have the same motive as, say, Poppy's cultivation. Emu's relationship with Parrot had always been a bit strange, so he always has to find himself defeating him, yet he can't kill him because he'd be unable to transform.
Yeah.
And Emu himself is a fairly likeable character, and so when it comes to the fact that he has to deal with Parrot, he'd been killing so many ride players, taking human lives and enjoying it. Parrot only had the motivation where he wanted to fight Emu. He always enjoyed playing games with him. He was the one possessing him and motivating him through the whole gaming phase of his life.
And even after that, he does have the whole kind of devil on the shoulder kind of thing. It was like, hey, Emu, you know what you should do? You should kill that person. That would solve everything. Go on, do it.
Pretty much,
Do
yes.
it. Transform and kick his ass and kill him.
Parrot is more of a representation of Emu's id, his inner child even. And
Yeah, Parrot is very immature.
Yeah, he's very childish. He just wants to constantly fight Emu. In a lot of battles, he just drops by and says, hey, Emu, now's a great time to fight. Let's do it.
Emu, you know what would be great if we did right now? If I kicked your ass.
Yeah, let's fight. But near the end, Emu eventually obliges, but then does it very purposefully, being very, very grumpy, and so he instantly goes into Hyper Moteki form and whoops Parrot's ass, giving him a near-death experience.
Then it goes into the whole kind of Final Fantasy kind of thing, where they're all underwater and there's like a metaphor for...
Well, that's the metaphor for death that had only been started after Parrot had watched Cronus kill Lovelicker, because then he started having fear of his own death.
Hang about, someone cared about Lovelicker?
Yeah, Parrot for some reason
Sounds
seemed
like
to
a
care.
really creepy name. I mean, I know they're kind of going for like a...
Lovelicker.
Yeah, they're going for like some kind of Italian thing, maybe something like that. But it just sounds weird.
Japan tries to emulate Europe in the worst ways. So from that perspective, Parrot is like an immature, less well-developed Heart from Drive.
Oh,
He shows empathy, and so he fears for his own life after seeing one of his comrades die.
that is yeah.
And so he'd been struggling with that stress for a long time. Then Emu straight up kills him, and so he experiences that fear. And then it's revealed later on that Emu sort of absorbed him until later on then released him.
Yeah.
And that's quite a good idea, really, because it won him over to the rider's side.
I think, yeah, the main, not the main motivation, but like the main reason why he was, the main enabling factor behind Parrot's villainy was that he didn't actually like understand what it would be like to die and not come back. It just didn't register for him that it would not be a thing people would be okay with, because bugsters could just be come back, yeah, could just be spurted out of a bug virus and be, hey, I'm back again, guys.
Which reinforces my view that he is very childlike. He is naive. He doesn't quite understand what death is. He knows that people die, but he didn't know what it felt like beforehand. And so part of Emu is that he's intelligent and compassionate, and so is able to pull Parrot toward him in order to gain an ally. So Emu isn't an entirely hopeless Neo Heisei character. He's a bit of a tool, but that's always what happens with Neo Heisei.
But all this kind of comes up towards the end of it. So, I mean, it would be nice if we had more of him being like a responsible...
Yes.
Then again, I suppose it says more about his development as a character along the way.
The show only gets interesting near the end, to be honest.
It really does. I wish we started at the end.
The first half is very, very bland.
If it didn't set up so much stuff that comes into play later on, I'd recommend you miss the first half.
It was for the most part exposition and filler, but Emu as a whole seems like quite a competent character. He even seems to get on with Parrot and accepts him as a part of himself.
Yeah, he takes it takes responsibility for him and like his actions afterwards, after he kind of resurrects him.
We then move on to Hero Kagami, or just Hero, or Kamen Rider Brave, the only level 2 rider whose form Ranger actually likes on its own.
Well, I say like, that's a strong word. I don't hate it.
Yeah, to be honest, we've gone into far more depth on the designs in Ex-Aid in previous episodes, so we're going to talk about the actual plot and characters in this one, because, damn, we could talk about the designs all day long.
There's only so many times I can say, I don't like it, before it gets boring.
I don't like it, make it stop. Give me Build. Is Build ready yet?
But Brave is... I hated Brave to begin with. I thought he was an asshole, and I really just hated him as a secondary rider. But once you learn more about him, once you get more underneath his skin, like you learn about his girlfriend and his relationship, like his actual relationship with Tiger, you come to appreciate him more and the struggle he goes through to kind of maintain his assholishness.
Well, he's not so much of an asshole. He's just cold and clinical.
Yeah.
That's the way he does things. It's the way he initially transformed. He was treating everything as a surgery. Even though everything was brightly coloured and video game themed, he treated it like any other operation.
He's taking it comically. I mean, actually, you're right, because he even when he's posing and stuff like that, he'll have his hands like up in front of him like surgeons do.
Yeah, it's like, my hands are clean, don't put AIDS on them. I've got to put these hands inside a patient.
Even when he's got his sword on, he'll hold the sword across and have like the other hand up like that.
Initially, there were nurses with him who would hand him the
driver.
Yeah,
he had his bimbo brigade
that
would... He set him up with his belt and stuff like that. I wish
cool.
they came back. That was funny.
And they used that for fairly decent comic effect earlier in the series. So when they were going against a monster with the Do-Re-Mi for Beat Gashat, he would just stand there and have the notes just hit him, and he wasn't sure what's going on while Emu was dancing. He is very cold, very serious, and it's mentioned through the series that he'd always been like that. But his motivation for being part of the team is because of his girlfriend dying. And so she died of the game disease, and it itself is his motivation for hating Tiger, Kamen Rider Snipe, who we'll discuss after we've covered Hero. And so essentially Tiger failed to save her, which then led to Graphite being born. And so Hero is a little bit miffed about him, hates him being part of the team.
A little bit.
Yeah, but that changes later on, as, of course, we mentioned he defects to Cronus because Cronus is like, hey, I can bring back your dead girlfriend, and then brings back her last words, just her repeating her last words over and over again.
Yeah, he brings her body back, but not her mind.
Yeah, and so he's just like, hey, you want the rest of her back? Kill the other dudes. That's okay, just kill Parrot. Just kill Emu. I don't like Ex-Aid.
Yeah, Masamune is a surprisingly understanding boss.
Yeah, well, he knows how to motivate people. He can manipulate them really well, gives them a goal they want. And so that's the thing with Hero. It's more redeeming because he finds someone that he can actually love. And that's finally a decent plot point for him. Oh, also his dad's the director. But we forget about him a lot. He's just there to pull faces and act serious.
Yeah, he's one of the comic relief characters.
Yeah. And then there is this really, really nice plot point later on where Tiger is, like, dying and the only one who can save him is Hero. And then Masamune is like, if you save his life, I'm killing your girlfriend.
Yeah.
And so he has to choose between that, and then he eventually swallows his pride and then actually helps Tiger, and then ends up watching his girlfriend die, or disappear. And to me, I find that's a massive motivation.
Yeah.
And then he rejoins the team and does all the Rider things, forgives Tiger, which I think is really, really sweet.
They do come to understand each other more, because Brave kind of comes to realise that it was his fault that Saki was killed the first time, because he was causing a stress due to his absence.
Oh yeah, he was a really, really bad boyfriend. So he was unresponsive as hell. She'd come up with cake. He's like, I gotta do my medical work.
Thought.
He really, for some reason, did not want to spend time with her. He was just focusing on his books. I'm like, how did you get a girlfriend in the first place? It's like, damn.
And Tiger was kind of happy to let him hate him like that because he felt it was the best way he could make amends for not saving her. And
at the end of the series, you see him coming to terms with Saki's death. So you see his father responding like, oh, Saki. And then Hero just looks at it all mournfully, but then just shows that he's moved on from it.
Yeah.
He also used to visit Saki's parents in mourning, showing that despite him trying to be some sort of hard ass, he does have a heart.
Yeah. Unfortunately, a lot of that comes up later as well. So much throughout. It's...
He's underdeveloped a lot of times, which is a shame. But then again, this show has so many riders going on at once.
Yeah.
Guy might find it a better job at showing multiple riders with multiple motivations, but for the most part, this series had all of them working together, so there wasn't really a need to add that much detail.
Next up for the first trio of riders we had is Tiger Hanaya.
Tiger.
Hana. Tiger.
Shooty bloke.
Kamen Rider Bang Bang.
Yes, he is Kamen Rider Snipe, the rider with the really odd green fringe covering one eye, which really would affect his vision. What is depth perception?
Well, nothing you need when shooting a gun. He's a licenseless doctor who operates out of the derelict old hospital never has any patience except for Nico later on. He is also an asshole.
So initially he was the first member of CR, which is basically Cyber Rescue, which was the Kamen Riders fighting the people with the game virus. And as we mentioned earlier, he was responsible for Saki's death, which led to him losing his license and then having a bit of a grudge but never really letting go of it. And so he decided to collect the gashats because he knew about the power and everything. So ultimately he still had a lot of cares.
Yeah, his shtick is that he wants to be the only one who has to deal with it, so that's why he wants everyone's gashats, so he's the only one who's able to be a rider.
He didn't want anyone else to have to suffer from all the stress and injury that came from it, which was why he was satisfied with Hiro being angry at him, because it gave him a reason to do something. Although his character was improved later on with the addition of Nico, who fell ill and became the usual patient thing, but instead only wanted Tiger to look after her because her motivation was to kick Emu's ass. Nico having previously lost a game tournament to Emu, who was possessed by Parrot at the time, which is a very strange motivation, but the two of them bond, both by their mutual hatred of the other riders.
Yeah, she really mellows Tiger out a bit. He kind of starts warming up a bit.
She is the yin to his yang.
One thing I kind of like about Tiger is that he's a bit of a blackjack reference, in that he's got you got a licenseless doctor, back alley doctor with kind of white streaks in his hair. It's not the biggest one, because I don't recall Blackjack ever, being a gun-toting superhero. But
that's why Blackjack is crap.
there are some little references there, which is kind of neat.
Tiger always seems to warm to Nico, being quite dependent on her, so having her as someone to finally care for, as previously he was having a bit of a martyr complex and only really looking after himself, he then found that he had a reason to fight that wasn't just, I'll take it all.
Kind of weird that he just had a high school girl living in his hospital, isn't it? Does she not have an actual house to live in?
Well, she was still technically ill at the time, and I think she just liked him. It's like, hey, you gonna kick Emu's ass yet? No. You gonna kick it yet? No. And it's very strange. And his development later on is fueled by his bond with Nico. And so as Nico goes up the ranks, he then gets very, very protective of her, knowing that she's often too weak to properly fight Cronus, and so takes the place. He is quite selfless in a sense, despite him coming across as arrogant, because he can't really express his feelings to anyone else.
The arrogance is quite probably his like an act to kind of make people not like him and kind of keep their distance, so that he can keep going on with his whole kind of savior complex thing.
It's not the most effective way of dealing with things, but he is ultimately a good character.
Yeah.
Especially near the end, because they finally give him his medical license back.
Yeah.
And he slaps a paper sign over the abandoned hospital, which I assume he now has the rights for. I'm guessing earlier in the series he was just squatting.
Maybe it's squatter's rights.
Yeah, he's a squatter doctor. And then he's going back to treating patients with the game disease, which is still a thing. So it's like, okay, there's a patient. Then I guess he goes off, grabs his belt and kicks some ass. It gives him a motivation.
Yeah.
And I like how it ties him up. Again, like Brave, he isn't a complex character.
But he is a character.
He's okay for what he is, especially when Nico joins up with him in the end, because she wants to become a nurse or assistant or something.
Yeah, because Poppy previously kind of suggests that she'd be good at that kind of thing after she helps a kid out who has the game disease.
Yes, and since we've discussed Tiger, we might as well discuss Nico. And she herself is a character who seems quite annoying at first. She just appears and is like, hey, can you kick Emu's ass for me?
Can you beat this person up who did nothing really to deserve a beating?
Yes, only because he beat her in Tekken, and so that's why she sticks with Tiger, because he starts taking all the gashats. And eventually she wants him to kick Emu's ass, but then she finds out that it's Parrot who actually did it, and so she wants to kick Parrot's ass, and there's a lot of focus on ass kicking. All we know is that she's a girl gamer.
She kicks Tiger's ass literally quite a lot of the time as well.
She does. Oh yeah, she beats him and then covers everything in bright
kind
things.
Kind of Harajuku style.
Yeah, stuffed animals everywhere.
Yeah.
She really likes him, but it's that sense that she's just pretending to be a bit of a bitch.
Yeah, they've got a fun little relationship going on. They've got like a kind of weird mentor. They've got like a weird kind of...
Well, like big brother and sister thing.
Yeah, actually. It is kind of like a weird sibling
They're
thing.
like siblings, and I love it when they always mention, like, so are you two going out? And then like, no.
That's weird. I mean, that is weird. Like, she's, like, what, 16? He's mid to late 20s, probably late 20s. That's creepy.
So aside from the few episodes where she gets the game disease and becomes the moral pet of Tiger, her development doesn't really begin until she becomes a ride player, where Tiger just tells her, no, don't play Chronicle, and she says, screw you, I'll play Chronicle. And that finally gives us the motivation to have her play the game and defeat all the bosses. And it's good, she makes use of the slapstick rather well, although I find that with her and Poppy as riders, they're just a bit too girly, I find.
I don't know, they're pretty girly girls to begin
with.
I mean, Poppy's definitely a girly girl, and Nico
excessively effeminate with Nico.
I don't know. I think it works. I mean, you need something to tell her apart from the other ride players.
Well, that's why she wears the funky cap and the backpack and the copious amount of stickers. Personally, I found that she was a bit too annoying earlier on, but I gradually warmed to her because she was actually doing things as a character.
And she did develop as well. She had actual proper development and stopped being quite such a bitch.
Yeah, she finally dropped that grudge and started looking toward the good things, and even though she did want to become the best gamer ever by defeating all the things...
After a while, she actually started to care about Emu and started being concerned about him when he was injured and stuff like that, which is kind of nice.
I'd say that she's the most developed protagonist, really, because all the others are acting within what they'd normally do, except for Hiro having to deal with letting go of Saki. But with Nico, she does a 180 on a lot of her views.
Yeah.
So she actually grows up, matures, becomes a lot more selfless, then discovers that she's good at helping people. Her background isn't worked on too much, though, as in only in the end you see her as a schoolgirl and people are like, oh yeah, you were off sick. And she eventually graduates, and then she just joins Tiger, either as an assistant or something.
Well, she kind of appoints herself as assistant.
It's like, you will give me this job. He's like, you're 16 years old. She's like, whatever.
She hasn't even got to uni yet, and she wants to become a medical professional.
Well, in this case, it makes sense because medical professionals in Ex-Aid fight monsters. And does she still have the Gashat? Or was it destroyed?
I don't think it was destroyed. They still have a bunch of the Gashats.
You know what would be really, really cool in a follow-up movie?
Mm-hmm.
If they gave her a gamer driver and she used two of them and became Cronus.
That'd be pretty cool, actually.
That would be the good stuff.
Like if they actually made her own... the Tekken Gashat or something like that.
That would be really, really nice tie-in. Again, Namco Bandai could work.
Mm-hmm.
But that's all we have to say about Nico, really. She's spunky, lively, a little bit annoying to begin with, but ultimately a very fun character. Speaking of spunky, lively female characters, of course there's Poppy Pipopopo.
If you listen to certain people, the only ever female rider we've ever had. She's fun, I like her. She was a bit weird to begin with. I wasn't quite sure how to take her. Especially the whole kind of swapping between the Poppy persona and the Asuna persona, but the Asuna one kind of doesn't happen too much, and she's mainly Poppy.
So for a bit of context, Poppy is a benign bugster from the game Doremi for Beat, and her job is essentially a nurse to look after a lot of the patients with it, though I think that actually, in that context, nurses are unnecessary because the person's just in pain and slowly fading away, unless it means giving them a hell of a lot of morphine. And she was born from Kuroto Dan's experiments with the game virus. Well, was it he who infected his mother, or did she just catch it?
I think he infected his mum.
So he infected his mum with the Doremi for Beat game virus, and Poppy was born.
Maybe she liked dancing games.
And then Poppy considers Kuroto a father, though she was born from his mother and inherited her memories.
So does that make her like his mum or his sister?
I don't know, but I'm hearing banjos. Although she finds out that background later on, and it does lead to a bit of development. But through a lot of the series, she is all happy and optimistic and stuff, and she swaps to a nurse persona, which is really, really oddly calm and formal, and actually preferable, in my opinion, to the weird Genki girl that appears.
No, I prefer the Poppy persona. It's fun. It's kind of... She adds a little levity to situations, but when she starts being serious in a Poppy persona, it shows that this shit's really hitting the fan.
She tends to help Emu a lot, so acting as his assistant. She helps him get introduced to all the lore or the background, as he also stands in for the audience. And so she's there as the guide, which sort of makes sense because then she's brought in as the guide for Chronicle. And so that's sort of brainwashed, sort of against her will, but then she becomes unbrainwashed after she gets a bit depressed.
Yeah. That's sort of your brainwashing, just a bit of depression.
Yeah, that's actually the alternative cut for the Manchurian Candidate. Development-wise, she doesn't change much. Any development is just there to further the plot a little more. So it's like, oh no, they've gotten stuck and they can't beat this certain thing. What does she do? She recovers a few memories, finds the Proto-Gashats, and brings back Kuroto.
Yep.
And although she does become more of an authority figure near the end, she warms to Kuroto, but after bringing him back, she knows how to imprison him within one of the bug visors.
Yeah.
And so she becomes a bit of an authority figure then.
Kind of becomes a bit of his keeper, just kind of keeps him in check for a bit.
The Tard Wrangler. All she needs to do is raise it and he shuts up, it's great. I was especially hyped about her because then she would become a female rider. It's Kamen Rider Poppy, and then she has the funky dating sim themed rider getup, and I really enjoyed that. It was there, it was happy. I mean, I found it a bit too feminine in comparison with Nico because both their effects were about the same, but it was fine with Poppy because that's what she is. And to be honest, in the scenes where she's fighting in her rider form, she is brutal.
Yeah, so all 3 episodes worth, or however many it is. It's not many.
She uses the chainsaw attachment and just gets really, really nasty. And I'm disappointed that she doesn't have more scenes as a rider nearer the end. Only she and Nico get to do it earlier on, which is a shame because I wanted to see them all going on at once.
Well, maybe they will in one of the movies.
Yeah, I love female riders. I'm just thinking, it's great. Have them with more screen time. Just have them as equal. I'm a weird Toku feminist. I'm like, yeah, give me more female riders.
It kind of bothers me that Poppy is kind of lauded as like a great female rider when Tackle had much
female rider.
Yeah, Tackle had much more to do, much more. I mean, Tackle was the first one to transform in Stronger. Actually, she was the first one we saw.
I'm not saying that Poppy's the best female rider. She's just there. I'm just glad that there is a female rider, but they could have done so much more with her.
I mean, she seems to have gotten a pretty good response as a rider, so hopefully Toei will pay attention to this and bring more in.
And of course, how can we forget Kiria Kujo, also known as Kamen Rider Laser, or later on after being Deus Ex Machina back, Laser Turbo. You might think, Laser, that's an odd name for a man who turns into a bike. I don't know. He's just there.
Maybe they're going for Racer or something like that and just kind of mispronounced it.
In English. Strangely enough, he doesn't really have much of a backstory. He's just there.
He's just a coroner.
Yeah, but you never really see him doing anything coroner-related. He shows up to work in a Hawaiian shirt and canvas shoes.
Not really sure a kids' show would be the best place to show like actual dead bodies and some bloke just kind of prodding around in them.
I mean, it is mentioned later on how he starts developing the vaccine by repeatedly kicking Kuroto's ass. That he needs to look for causes of things, as the coroner's job is to inspect causes of death and to prevent that from happening in people in future cases.
Yeah, basically he was killing Kuroto a lot and kind of learning from that to kind of develop that kind of thing.
Yeah. So Kiria had a vital role in actually advancing the plot in the beginning. All the other riders were content to fight. He was the one who was investigating. He was looking into why Emu transformed, and that he didn't actually have the operation. And so he kept everything going, kept the intrigue going. They didn't trust him, yet he was still sort of a protagonist, and then working with the baddies. It was really nice. It was quite complex for what it was, but then they just went and killed him. And he was doing all that heroic sacrifice thing. They killed him off way too early because he was only starting to get interesting.
Yeah, I didn't really give him enough time for audiences to gel with him a lot. So, I mean, I think if they'd waited more towards the beginning, not the middle, to kill him, then I think that would have been a much better strategy to take.
Definitely. And when he comes back, he is allegedly a bad guy. And yeah, I think in the beginning he was a bit of a liar. So sort of told things they didn't really trust him. Yeah. And especially after they did the whole thing where he tried to unmask Genmu and then did they get Parrot or was it Graphite that they had stand this place? Probably Parrot.
I think it was Parrot.
Yeah, and so he was sort of outed and seen as an outsider. And so it's sort of reflected on again when he's the bad guy, in that all of that was a massive ruse so he could steal all the Proto-Gashats and save all the peoples. It's a bit of an odd motivation, but hey, at least he gets to use other forms now, like he uses Jet Combat.
Yeah, so, and they all look like they haven't been rendered yet because they're all kind of grey.
Yeah, it's basically greyed out versions of the other Gashats. It's a shame he doesn't use more of them, and his humanoid form looks like ass.
Yeah, it really isn't the strongest.
I'm just glad they gave him a humanoid one. Otherwise, he's just a bike. He's an anime character, and then he's a bike. He's not even ridden that much. No. He's ridden once or twice in the beginning, then again in the end. That's it. For the rider machine, damn.
There really isn't much point to making him a bike man, you know?
In terms of personality, he can be a bit sarcastic, but he's very focused toward his role. So when he's brought back from the dead, at that point, Dan is back. And Kiria gets really, really sick of Dan having snarky remarks. He's just working constantly and proclaiming himself a god, and being really, really insensitive when there are people dying. So at the point where the Game Deus virus spreads, he decides to infect Kuroto, and then take advantage of all those lives he's been bragging about by kicking his ass repeatedly. And then Kuroto sort of warms to that. So Kiria gets a bit of revenge on the guy who killed him and manages to do some medical research. So he is still playing Doctor. He's a consistent character, even though he has to be very sneaky and underhanded about it.
Yeah.
He's a bit of a chaotic good, really.
Yeah, he's probably one of my favourites out of the show. He's a fun, not the most complex character, but, you know, not a blank slate either.
He's a lot more interesting than Emu, though, because Emu was always going the whole choir boy route. There was always that one moral thing, whereas Kiria was willing to go a bit seedy. A little bit seedy just to say, hey, here's a different route of taking things, rather than playing the Boy Scout the whole time.
Yeah, he was okay with getting his hands dirty.
I still think that he probably wore the Hawaiian shirts to autopsies, and the horrible boater shoes and the trousers that showed his ankles.
We also have Dangerous Dan with his dangerous plan. It's Dan Kuroto, the ex-CEO of
Genmu. That's it.
Corp. And also Kamen Rider Gen and Dangerous Zombie. It's not really given the Kamen Rider title for Dangerous Zombie, it's just Dangerous Zombie.
He'd always been the antagonist from the beginning, forcing the riders to fight him, always stroking his ego at the same time, while outside of the whole rider thing, pretending to be helpful toward the others, whereas he's just advancing his own goals to develop Kamen Rider Chronicle, as he wanted to be the ultimate game developer, and I think he actually wanted to make a decent game, because you know how Parad and Masamune hijacked it and just wanted killing people? I swear Kuroto actually wanted to make a game where players could fairly fight bugsters.
Probably, yeah.
He just had a really, really unethical way of doing it. It's like, okay, I'll get the data from these monsters. Here's the data of human death. Yoink. Got me a powered up form. Now I can come back from the dead. Ooh. And then he got the data from the riders. So he released a horrible disease in order to develop a really, really good game. If you look at it from that way, it's an incredibly weird way of doing something. He was dead focused on it.
Well, he had more of a reason for doing his things than Masamune did, at least.
Not even massively villainous, he's just misguided. He's like a child.
It's just unethical.
It's always expanded on that he was a prodigy, and so he got angry at Emu for sending him sketches and gave the kid a horrible disease.
As he do.
And so he was a successful developer and then worked on the Gashats. And after being reborn, you finally start to realize how much of an egotist he is, because then he claims that he has completely defeated death by being reborn as a bugster.
Yeah.
And he always emphasizes it every time he enters a fight, because he has 99 spare lives. And so he just pops out of a little tube Mario style, and then smirks. The way Kuroto's acted seems to be from the William Shatner school of acting. His actor himself is actually pretty well accomplished. What did he gain again?
He's a card-carrying member of Mensa. I'm not entirely sure what his IQ is. I'm not sure if they said that. He's also a pharmacist as well.
And an actor in a superhero series. Wow. To be honest, considering how egotistical Kuroto was, I wouldn't be surprised if his actor was like, hey, how about we play him this way?
Yeah, he towards the end, he gets a lot more obsessed over his own genius, and I don't think it's a coincidence that his actor is a Mensa member. I think it might have been a thing kind of referencing that.
When he's pulled into the protagonist's side, a lot of it is played for laughs. It doesn't have the sadistic, evil bent that he did earlier in the show, because his work is already completed, and he's just mad that people are taking it the wrong way. And all of it's done for laughs. So whenever he gets a bit too much, Poppy just threatens him with the bug visor. So get back in your cage. And it's always funny because he just overacts everything. He shouts everything. He's like, I am Shin Kuroto-dan. And he's like, I am your god. And it's all done so well because he's a great comical character near the end, as long as you forget that he did kind of kill a bunch of people.
A lot of people.
A lot of people, including his own mother. And then framed his dad, but then it was revealed later on that his dad wanted that to happen. So it's some strange
Keikaku.
Machiavellian thing. Editor's note, Keikaku means plan. Keikaku means Dan. In the first half of the series, a lot of Ex-Aid's new forms were dreamt up by Emu himself, so using his whole infected state to create Gashats allowed him to make the whole Mighty Brothers Double X thing and the Maximum Mighty X, but in the other half, it was Kuroto who ended up making them, as he was stroking his ego and making himself seem so powerful, as he was like, hey look, I made you an invincible ninja form, and the first time that Gashat is introduced, he uses it on himself and becomes invincible, but then he realises it only works for 10 seconds.
Yeah, it's
Probably gets his ass whooped.
Yeah, it's like the star in Mario, or the invincibility TV in the Sonic games.
Pretty much, yeah, even has a similar effect and music playing. For the most part, Kuroto Dan is just the team's resident scientist. They keep him around because he's the only one who knows the enemy, because he was the enemy. Realistically, it might be inconsistent for him to do this, but he works really, really well as the comical foil in the second half. Especially when he has to deal with the consequences of having done all the horrible things where he gets imprisoned, and then he just keeps begging for people to release him. To appropriate the old school D&D style of alignments, I'd say he's more of a chaotic neutral than any actual evil, because yeah, sure, he was being a bit of a bad guy in the beginning, he just wanted to make a video game. All he wanted to do was make a really good video game, and then he just wanted to be considered the best dev ever. He just wants to be loved and acknowledged and worshipped.
Too much to ask.
No. He's a very, very lovable character, especially when you see the little promos at the end of the episodes, like the movie promos. His actor's just freaking out, going crazy. It's beautiful, I love it. We can't really give you a proper impression of what Kuroto is unless you watch the whole show. The first half, it's a bit of a grind, isn't it?
A little bit, yeah.
But the second half is definitely worth it. It's a mess. They add a plot point every episode or so, and then they drop a bunch of other ones.
It's kind of disappointing. It kind of makes it hard to know what you want to get invested in and what you can just leave.
And it was very prevalent during the second half, and so as soon as they'd settled into the whole Kamen Rider Chronicle thing, where Parrot had taken over, and it seemed like, yeah, it's going to be the bad guys strike back kind of thing. Then the plot immediately changed with Masamune, and then his motivations changed every now and then, and it was just a mad tangle between plot points, and then there were the filler episodes. But if you enjoyed the character interactions, and enjoyed the action and all the rider stuff, you would survive it, actually. It's just more of the thing that you like, if you like that sort of thing. Despite them going with Toei's current style of saving budget by only having a few monster suits.
It does get a bit frustrating towards the end once you get a bit sick of seeing the same monsters over and over again.
I find it was done a bit better than Zyuohger, though. Because with Zyuohger, it was just pretty blatant. You just said, oh look, I brought this guy back from your memories, go fight him again. With Ex-Aid, they had something. They had a Pokemon Go style thing, where all the ride players can see on their phones where the next Bugster will be, and they have to fight him. That was always good, and it gave them a purpose and sort of expanded a bit on the characters. Not enough, but gave them all a distinct personality. Especially the one with a motorcycle. Like how Ex-Aid reprogrammed him so that he couldn't have the bike anymore, so he just started beating people up with a set of handlebars.
He's got to go fast.
Always nice. I'm going to repeat what I said earlier in the episode. All in all, it's a mess, but it's a fun mess. It's brightly coloured, it can be serious at times, and as long as you can let go of your disbelief, I'd say it's worth watching. It's fun, it's lively, it's satisfying. The ending is satisfying. I didn't go away feeling hollow like I did with Wizard. It genuinely felt like they'd ended the series, but they're obviously going to build on it more. And maybe in future we'll start looking at the mini-series and at the movies, but for the series, I'd say I'm pretty satisfied.
Honestly, I'd rather it was some other kind of independent. I mean, not independent from Toei, but like independent from the Kamen Rider series. Like it was, I don't know, Virtual Heroes Ex-Aid or something like that. Because the aesthetics are very far removed from what is typically Kamen Rider.
Yeah, when we started the cast, you weren't really too fond of the aesthetic. It didn't really fit the whole Rider thing.
I'm still not. The closer it gets to the whole Rider aesthetic is having a little gem in the forehead and having large eyes. But even then, the eyes are very different to what Kamen Rider's eyes are usually. These are flat anime eyes rather than the kind of bug-eyed compound eyes you usually get.
Did you enjoy the series, though?
It's not the best, but all in all, I came away feeling more positive about it than I expected to.
Better than Wizard?
Yeah, better than Wizard.
Hallelujah! And so this brings our little Ex-Aid special to an end. We may probably end up expanding on other plot points and things in later episodes, but we've talked about the plot, we've talked about the characters. We like it more than we'd initially thought. And we're just really excited for Build. If anything, we could say that Build is returning to form after Ex-Aid decided to experiment. It's like Drive after Gaim.
Yeah, it does seem a little bit more like a kind of going back to safer territory.
That's what Toei seems to do. They always go like, okay, let's do something else, then they return to the old style.
I suppose just to reassure people that they're still business as usual. They just like to try different things sometimes.
Which is a good idea. At least they're testing what sticks, because hey, Gaim's gimmicks worked really well. And so maybe in the future we'd expect something a bit more Gaim-like once Toei know that they can properly profit from it. If you've enjoyed Ex-Aid, you can buy a lot of Ex-Aid gimmicks from tokutoystore.com. Check them out, they've got a lot of old stuff in stock, a lot of new stuff, and it's just a big old mishmash of the new, the old, the pre-loved, and ultimately it's worth checking out.
Absolutely, if you like stuff, they've got stuff. You can buy their stuff.
Buy things. We're the worst at promos, just engaging capitalism. Unless you're Stalin, then why the hell are you watching Tokusatsu? Aren't you dead? And if you enjoyed our stuff, make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube, follow us on SoundCloud, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and generally say good things about us. Unless you want to fight, then we'll be right over. I've got a baseball bat.
Absolutely, just check us out, let us know what you think.
This is Rex, signing off. Stay fabulous.
Keep on riding, folks.